I'm really excited.
I can tell. My lord.
What is happening, everybody? It is time for MLB Live Before Lock, and yeah, lots of baseball slates upcoming because at most there's 7 NBA games remaining for the season. They're kind of spread out, so just one NBA Finals game that's going to be taking place during the week, and then we got one other during the weekend. But as far as the week goes, we're going to be covering a lot of baseball content, which means I get to join my buddy Eric Lindquist, get to chop up a bunch of baseball with him. Hope you guys enjoyed. As you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Shout out to Chris Williams, who has already gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. So, Chris, we appreciate you supporting the channel and everybody else. Like I said, the easiest way to support us is liking the video, subscribing to the YouTube channel, but also something else you could do. Have you seen this, Eric? There is a new Hall of Fame program that we've had. We've tried to bolster it up a little bit so that we could get you guys even more reason to go play DFS with the Stochastic Avatar. So full details are over on the site, which you can find over at stochastic.com/HOF. But you guys know the short version of it. Go ahead, download the Stochastic Avatar, play with it on DraftKings or FanDuel. And if you finish in the top 3 of a GPP with 5,000 people or more, there are all kinds of different prizes that are available to you. So we got stuff that we're giving away like yearly subscriptions, monthly subscriptions. We're giving away Stochastic Ring of Honor sort of stuff, but go check all of that out over at stochastic.com/HOF and play DFS with the Stochastic Avatar. It is zero cost to you, and you got the chance to win some prizes, which has always been the case, but now even better prizes now. Eric, as far as today's slate goes, any kind of overarching thoughts here? Because we got a Coors Field game. We've got a weird-ass lock time at 6:40 Eastern time. But any general thoughts before we start breaking down individual pitchers and whatnot?
Yeah, hello, Coors Field. How are you this fine day? That pretty much ends the thoughts that I have based on what I'm looking at in the Sims tool. It is fascinating. I always think these slates where you have 2 or 3 absolute studs, in this case 2 in Wheeler and Skubal, and then you get Coors Field. How do you make them work? Will you make them work? The ownership's coming in on the top of the board here. And yet we're getting Coors Field in our lineups the same way that I am at the moment. It is a fascinating case study in DFS.
Yeah, and let's start by talking about the pitchers. And it's really important that there is a Coors Field game because in some ways that has to inform the pitchers we're getting to. Because if you really like Coors Field, well, it's not like you can go out and say, you know what? I like Coors Field with Wheeler and Skubal as my pitchers because, well, that's not how it really works with the salary. So we're going to have to figure out which pitchers it is that we want to get to, what price ranges we were willing to be playing, and what kind of opportunity costs there are associated with paying up at pitching or paying up at offense. Let's start with the 2 top-end pitchers, Eric, who are comparably popular. We've got Zach Wheeler, 32% owned. Tyreek Skubal is 30% owned. Wheeler's at home against the Brewers. Then you got Tyreek Skubal on the road against the Texas Rangers. The first thing I want to ask you is, are you going to be looking to spend up much at pitching today?
Not as much as the field is, it would appear. I think that Zach Wheeler is the guy that I prefer over Tyreek Skubal, and yet I'm underweight to both of them here. I've got 22% Zach Wheeler. I've got 12% Tyreek Skubal right now in my 150. That's a little bit uncomfortable and something I should probably ramp up a little bit, but the top 2 percentage kind of informs this. And one thing I've always done is utilizing sports books and being able to look at where they're setting lines in order to inform decisions. Well, it also applies to some pick'em. We have Zach Wheeler over on DraftKings Pick 6 listed at 26.5 fantasy points. I made that my featured video on less, considering we've got him just around, just north of 20 fantasy points. But it is still a Milwaukee team that is second against right-handed pitching, 120 WRC plus. Pretty ridiculous when you're smack dab between the Yankees, the Padres, the Dodgers, the Astros. That's how good Milwaukee's been. They're getting Rhys Hoskins back as well. That's exciting to see. I'm sure he's happy to be going back into Philly. But this is Zach Wheeler, who's been absurdly good this season. But I'm still not going to be getting to him the same way the field is because there's guys like Ellie De La Cruz that I'm just not going to be playing this slate without in large field. I'm just not going to be playing this slate without Jake Fraley and Tyler Stevenson. And there's just only so much money I can spend up. And there's one pitcher that I have in the mid-range that I'm absolutely obsessed with that I'm shocked is getting as low of ownership as what he is. And so I'm going to be firing him up ad nauseum so I don't have to get to as much Wheeler and Skubal.
Yeah, so I largely agree with everything you said here. A couple of points for me to break down is I like both of these pitchers. I do
Same.
not like them quite as much as the field. Both of them projected in Scooball as well as Zach Wheeler for north of 30% ownership. In my lineups, I have 23% of Wheeler. I have 22% of Scooball. So really, really comparable exposure between the two of them and underweight to both of them relative to our ownership projections. So, and it's real, it's not because I dislike either of them or anything like that relative to their price tags. It's really just because of how much I'm spending up at offense for this slate. So, as a result, Wheeler, Scooball, are they good pitching options? Yeah, they are. Just a little bit too popular for me. And the opportunity cost of really jamming these expensive pitchers, it's going to come at the expense of offense. Like you had mentioned, Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie's been dog shit as of late. He has, do you know what his
Don't care.
WRC plus is for the last month, by the way?
Is it like 40?
I believe it's 9.
That's bad.
With
That's
that
really,
said, he's at Coors
really bad.
Field, and if he gets on base, he's going to steal second base. He's got
That's
a lot
exactly
of power
it.
upside.
Yep.
So I really do like paying up for a lot of these Cincinnati bats, and that is something that's going to make it so that I can't get to quite as much of the pay up pitchers as what the field is. But like you had said, there are a lot of cheaper pitchers that look really good as well. So let's talk about the pitchers in the 8 to 9K range where we've talked about Wheeler and Scooball. And I see also we've got a question in the Discord channel from Clintwood83. He wants to know our 2 favorite pitchers for DK single entry. We'll hit on that after we wrap up all the pitchers, or else we're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit here, where you get to a thing where it's like, I don't want to spoil it as we're going through all these pitchers here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the next price range where we've got Grayson Rodriguez, Mackenzie Gore, Justin Verlander, Kevin Gausman. All of these pitchers are picking up ownership as well. Grayson Rodriguez is 13% owned. Mackenzie Gore is 17%. Justin Verlander, 22%. And then Kevin Gausman, he is the chalk of all the chalky pitchers on the slate, projected for 35% ownership. So he is slightly more popular than Wheeler and Scooball, the most popular pitcher overall on the slate. Let's start by talking about Gausman, Eric. Is he the guy that you're gravitating towards in the mid-range, or is it one of these other pitchers?
So I have close to 30% Kevin Gausman. He's actually my highest owned pitcher here at the moment. So that should tell you how flat I am in other spots. But there's one pitcher that I've got nearly 30% of as well, who's my second highest owned pitcher, who's a lot cheaper. Well, not a lot cheaper, but Kevin Gausman, I get why the ownership's coming in. But at the same time, it is a Baltimore lineup that I think in large field, I just want to get to anytime that you're going to have a chalky pitcher going up against them. They still have north of 100 WRC plus. They only strike out around a 20% clip against right-handed pitching. Everything for me with Kevin Gausman is just based on the Kevin Gausman name. He's had some struggles here at times. He will be in Toronto here today. That helps out a little bit, but a 277 expected batting average, 451 expected slugging, and then this Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Mountcastle, Rue Hearn, who's just been incredible this season against righties. I do see a lot of reason to be getting to Baltimore at the same time that I see why the field's getting to Kevin Gausman. He's substantially cheaper. If this were last year's version of Kevin Gausman, we would see 8K Kevin Gausman pulling 55% ownership against anybody. But based on what we've seen so far this season, I know it's starting to get better. I'm still not going to be there to where the field is.
Yeah, so I also have Gausman as my most rostered pitcher, but not wildly different from the field. Like you said, he is somebody who's going to be quite popular today. It looks like 35% owned. So my most rostered pitcher, I am closer to the field on Gausman, actually slightly overweight for me on Gausman, whereas I'm a little bit underweight to the field on Wheeler and Scooball. But yeah, I like Gausman quite a bit. And it's not because of the matchup. It's not because he's been killing it this year. It really is more to do with the fact that he's only 8K on DraftKings. We do want to spend up at offense. And there is a track record of Kevin Gausman being an elite starting pitcher. And considering he started the year not quite 100%, he was coming off an elbow injury. And even he himself said that in hindsight, if he was to redo the start of the season, he would have opened it on the injured list as opposed to starting the year with Toronto. And I do think he's going to be much better going forward. And if we look at some of the splits for Kevin Gausman, it's all small sample sizes, but he did have a 4.5 ERA in March and April. It's 3.76 in May. His strikeout rate is also quite a bit higher in May. So there have been positive signs that he's progressing, getting healthier, pitching better as the season goes on. So for cash games today, absolutely go ahead and play Kevin Gausman. And then I think you want to pair him with whoever it is that you feel the best about between Zach Wheeler and Tyreek Scooball, at least as far as cash games are concerned, I would lean towards Wheeler. If somebody else really prefers Skubal, I think they're pretty interchangeable. I mentioned before, I have 23 and 22% of them in large field tournaments. It's not like I have a big lean on one over the other. But for me, I would say Gausman and Wheeler for cash games. For you, cash games would be Gausman and Wheeler, would be Gausman and Skubal, or something else entirely?
Gausman Wheeler. I find it hard to get away from Gausman Wheeler.
Same page with that. And then we'll get to Clintwood's question a little bit here as well. But if you aren't rostering Kevin Gausman in the mid range, do you like one of these other pitchers that are 8 or 9K, or do you prefer going cheaper?
Like Mackenzie Gore a little bit. We've just seen him be pretty darn good. I don't know a more. I mean, that's the most basic way I can put it. Is Mackenzie Gore has just been good. There are times that you think the other shoe is going to drop, and it just hasn't so far. Continues to have the kind of strikeout stuff for DFS that you want. 29.1% K rate. He continues to limit hard contact against lefties and righties alike, and as long as that continues, I think that there's going to be an opportunity to just continue to roster him again against righties. A 127 expected ISO is pretty damn good if you're striking out 30% of them. So Mackenzie Gore, he's been an ace. I think it's just, is that fair to say he's been an ace?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say, at least this year, he's been an ace.
Yeah. So far, it's only 58 and 2/3 innings, so I'm not going to anoint him. I'll go Denny Green at the end of the year. He is who he thought he was, or something like that. But he's throwing a fastball over 50% of the time, and right now, 22.7% whiff percentage on it. So far, 257 expected batting average is his worst of his main three offerings. Curveball, slider, he's throwing in as well quite a bit. But as long as he's locating pretty well here and not walking dudes, I'm pretty okay with what we've seen. Again, you go back to his 2022 season, his rookie season, he had a 12% walk percentage. It was 9.8% last season. It's down to 6.9%. That's allowing for him to just get ahead in counts and just getting some of these punch outs. Adds a 3.51 expected ERA. So I think Mackenzie Gore is just good. But once again, I have 20% of him. It's not like I am jamming him.
So let's talk about ways to get off of these mid-range pitchers then, because nothing else is all that popular. If you start to look at the cheaper pitchers below 8K, and we'll start by talking about the 7K pitchers, then we'll talk about the real punts. Matt Waldron's 18% owned. Tyler McGill is 12% owned. Tyler Anderson's 1% owned. Uvalde is 2% owned. So on an 8-game slate, which is relatively small, all these pitchers, anybody who's priced below 8K is sub 20% owned. Do you like any of these pitchers to be overweight too in the 7K range, Eric?
Yeah, without even ROI boosting him, I was getting 31%. So a little bit higher there. I just did another sim like 5 minutes ago, but Matt Waldron. Why is Matt Waldron only 17% owned against an Angels team that is starting to strike out more, been on the rise? And the Angels against righties now for the season at 24% with a 90 WRC plus. I know the ballpark can be advantageous. I understand that you look at like his pitching run values and there's some worries that you get, but this is a knuckleball primary pitcher going up against an Angels team that I don't find to be very good, and I think is hit above their heads, even without Mike Trout in this lineup at times. And the K rate, 24.2% K rate to both sides of the plate, identical K percentage. Now, you have left-handed issues, 163 expected ISO, 216 ISO. What lefties are you worried about in the Angels lineup? Pretty much everything that I have in front of me is just saying jam Matt Waldron today.
Yeah, he's my guy as well. Matt Waldron, I have over 20% of right now. He is, of all the pitchers that are less than 20% owned, he's my favorite one to be getting to. And, he's a super weird pitcher. You got a knuckleballer who also has, like a kind of comp. Like, he's not a Tim Wakefield knuckleballer who throws.
No.
Like, what was the fastball of Tim Wakefield? Like 78 miles per hour or something like that?
Yeah, and he was throwing it like 80% of the time or something. He was like only throwing knuckleballs. That's not what Matt Waldron's doing. But let me tell you, it helps to have a knuckleball be your primary pitch and then still have some kind of velocity that exists. I mean, the guy is throwing 91 still. So it's very different than the Tim Wakefield days where, you never saw anything over 85, right?
Yeah, and Matt Waldron average fastball velocity is 91.3 miles per hour. His ERA is 4.26, which is very similar to his ERA from last year at 4.35. Here's the difference, though. Last year, Matt Waldron had a 4.48 expected ERA. This year, Matt Waldron has a 3.53 expected ERA. The reason is because last year, Matt Waldron had a 17.9% K rate. This year, it's 24.2%. It's not to say this guy is going to be a world beater or anything like that going forward, but this looks like a guy who's a competent middle of the rotation pitcher who's improving at 27 years old, has some strikeout upside. He's cheap, and the field isn't really playing him in a meaningful way today. So I'm with you. Matt Waldron's my favorite contrarian pitcher on the night.
Oh, great. We're like perfectly aligned on pretty much everything that we've thought and said so far. Looking forward to the deviation. Where's the shoe gonna flip? Because like I don't really see another pitcher that I want to be jamming. I'm close on Tyler McGill at 10%. I'm close to Ryan Nelson at 5%. And then Andrew Abbott, I'm double the field on, but only 8% of my lineups. I really don't have another guy that I want to be playing ad nauseum there. I guess Grayson Rodriguez is the only guy that we've talked about who I think is like pretty playable still. Nathan Eovaldi, I suppose we could talk about just because of the matchup, but like I don't really want to roster Nathan Eovaldi today. Grayson Rodriguez, very tough spot in Toronto, but the strikeout stuff is at least there. Anytime you have that kind of capabilities, you should at least entertain the idea of getting to him, but it's not like it's going unnoticed. So just another guy on this slate.
Yeah. So for me, as far as the cheap pitchers are concerned, I agree with you. I have of my top 150 lineups, I have Nathan Eovaldi in 2% of them. He is still expected to be on a pitch count. I saw somebody ask about that in the YouTube chat. If you look at the starts we've gotten from
37
him
in his first start back. Yeah. He's
Let's
only had
see.
one start in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So Nathan Eovaldi started on May 28th and threw 37 pitches. So like, what are we going to get out of him? 50, 60 pitches, something like that. It's hard to really expect him to be stretched out. So that's what I'm looking at for Nathan Eovaldi. It makes him very difficult to play for DFS purposes. And then as far as the other cheap pitchers, like, yeah, there's guys who I have 2% of Andrew Abbott. I have 2% of Ryan Feltner as well, but like not anybody that I think anybody should be playing in 1, 2, 3, 10 lineups or anything like that. I don't have any priorities on the cheap end. I don't have any of these pitchers I'm getting double-digit exposure to, Eric.
Nor do I. I have one share of Ryan Feltner. He's generally somebody that I like to take shots on because I don't think he's been as bad as what his ERA would indicate. It's a lot of lefties in Cincinnati up there at altitude, coming to visit him there in Colorado. Don't feel very good about Ryan Feltner today. Felt better rostering him when he was on the West Coast, hanging out in Oakland and things of that nature. But it's going to be pretty tough to roster Ryan Feltner here today.
All right, so let's answer the question here from, it was the one from Clintwood83 who wants to know, who are our favorite 2 pitchers for single entry? So I think there's a couple of different ways you could play single entry. One is you go kind of contrarian at pitcher, and then you just play Coors Field at offense. That's not really how I like to play single entry, though, because just the offense ownership, it has so much more volatility to it. And like Coors Field, I think is going to be 30% owned or so in single entry, which is a little bit too high for me. So my preference is to find a contrarian offense I like, which I've identified one, and then to play some of the chalkier pitchers. So I'm going Gausman and Wheeler in single entry.
Gausman and Wheeler in single entry. I am going to be going... I'm kind of torn. So my single entry that I'm looking at right now, I'm waiting for San Francisco's lineup still. Ryan Nelson sucks. He's terrible. And I like San Francisco for single entry, but it's currently Wheeler and Waldron. I think it's going to end up being Gore and Waldron when it's all said and done, because I have another variation of it that I want, but I need San Francisco's lineup.
Then we got a question in Discord. Einstein, he wants to know what we're doing with Grayson Rodriguez. Like, I don't hate Grayson Rodriguez or anything like that today. If I'm paying up, I prefer Mackenzie Gore to be contrarian. I prefer Zach Wheeler. I prefer Gausman. I mean, I'd even prefer getting to like Justin Verlander today. So there's just a lot of pitchers that I have ahead of Grayson Rodriguez. So I don't really land on many lineups with him.
I'm with you.
Let's talk about the FanDuel pitching then. So on the FanDuel side of things, yeah, not all that much different of a conversation today than it is on many other slates, which is mostly that the FanDuel pitching looks very similar than DraftKings pitching. If I'm spending up for a pitcher on FanDuel, it's Zach Wheeler. If I'm spending down for a pitcher, it's Kevin Gausman. The thing that probably stands out the most to me about FanDuel is that Kevin Gausman at $8,200 is only 15% owned. Skubal's more popular. Wheeler's more popular. So on DraftKings, Gausman's the most popular pitcher, but on FanDuel, he's the third most popular pitcher of these guys. So I really like Gausman even more at $8,200 on FanDuel. He's one of the cheapest pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, he's really good on FanDuel. That's almost like undeniably good. Wheeler and Skubal pulling a lot more ownership. I think Kevin Gausman talked about being underweight to him over on DK. I built some lineups earlier in the day. It's not updated, so I'm not going to cite anything there, but I was overweight to Kevin Gausman, I suppose, there. I think I would be artificially boosting him. I would be firing up Kevin Gausman quite a bit on FanDuel today.
Yeah, I think he is great for really anything today. I think single entry, he's going to lower the overall ownership of your lineup a little bit as preferred to the as opposed to those top end, Zach Wheeler, Skubal pitchers. Like I'm really surprised that he's like half of the ownership of Zach Wheeler over on FanDuel. Is there anything else that stands out to you on FanDuel that's maybe a little bit different from DraftKings, or maybe just a pitcher you think is under-owned for FanDuel purposes?
Yeah, I'm seeing Waldron at 7,900 there, 8%. I think that's about appropriate there. Much more of a DK play for me where you're playing two pitchers, and what Matt Waldron can get you at 7,400 over on DK is better than what he's going to get you at 7,900 on FanDuel. I would much rather play Gausman when you're just talking about a $300 difference between the two on FanDuel. Mackenzie Gore at 9,800. I could see a way where he got squeezed a little bit, has a top one percentage of 8.3%, which is 0.7% behind Skubal and Gausman. So Mackenzie Gore is somebody that I'd identify just based on looking at the top pitchers tool as somebody that I would probably want to get to a little bit. And then Andrew Abbott at 1% against Colorado. I love Colorado for tournaments today. Especially like all of the righty bats that exist there, which are pretty much everybody outside of McMahon. But I am looking at 1% Andrew Abbott. I think I would be a little bit interested to at least take shots. I know the strikeout stuff hasn't necessarily been there, in the last year and a half for him, but I think I'd be all right. 23.2% K rate against Southpaws on the season. Do the Colorado Rockies have just an 87 WRC plus? That's near the bottom, 7th worst in baseball. I would probably take a shot or two there.
Anything else you want to add about the pitching for today?
Playing any Tyler Anderson. I mean, this just like, I don't know what to make of the Rockies split at all. I ended up betting San Diego. It felt pretty good at -125. It's gone up since, obviously, from open yesterday. But looking at San Diego, they've been murdering righties. But against lefties, it's been a far worse lineup. Only an 18% K rate, but 91 WRC plus. Is Anderson in any of your lineups?
0 out of 150.
Yeah, he's not in any of mine either. I feel like I might want to, again, at this point, it's like, I'm not going to boost him just to get a couple shares potentially, but like, if you're hand building out a couple, I wouldn't play him at 8,800 over on FanDuel, I can tell you that much, but on DK, where potentially that could be 7,800 for him, Evaldi because of the pitch count concerns, McGill's pulling ownership already. I thought about it for a while. If
you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel now. It is time to figure out if while Jordan Klein was in Hawaii, if he remembered how to use the MLB lineup generator. Because what we are about to do is build some baseball lineups here. If you guys want to sign up for the lineup generator, it is the most affordable package that they have over at Stokastic.com, less than $15. You could build your lineups here. You can also alter some of those lineups. We've got our player projections, our ownership projections in here. So if you want to change out a pitcher, you can do that. And you can check what our projections say are some other options to be getting to. And then also you can decide, do you want to build contrarian lineups? Do you want to build chalky lineups? And any package you sign up for here at Stokastic does come with access to our Discord channel. Links for all those are below in the YouTube description box. But let's start here by building DraftKings lineups, Jordan. All stack types. And since this is an 8-game slate where there is kind of pronounced chalk at offense, let's try contrarian lineups. I tend to think it's still going to jam Coors Field for us, but I'm just interested to see what ends up happening if we click some contrarian lineups. Hey, first one isn't Coors Field, but the next like 5 were. So let's see.
one, we're going for one.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, lots of Rockies. So one thing that is of interest here in the lineup generator is it is giving us more Rockies than it's giving us of the Reds. And you could see that our top, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, our top 7 hitters are all from the Colorado Rockies. Montero, Tovar, Doyle, Bouchard, Diaz, Trejo, Goodman. So Eric, first thing I want to ask you about Coors Field is if you're playing one side of in large field tournaments, do you prefer the Reds or do you prefer the Rockies?
Prefer the red side, but I have a ton of both.
So I have a bunch of both. I do have more exposure to the Rockies, and it's because of price point. The Rockies are just so cheap for today for a team that's playing at Coors Field, and it's also what could potentially be a pretty good spot for them against Andrew Abbott here. So I am playing more of the Rockies. In large field tournaments, though, I'm overweight to both sides of the Coors Field game, but a little bit more on the Rockies just because of that pricing. Are you overweight to both sides of it, or is it just you strongly prefer the Reds to the Rockies?
Nope, 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 no, 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 no. It's like 30 and 24. So over half my lineups are Coors Field.
Yeah, let's see. What is it for me? For me, it is 20. Yeah, I've got 26% of the Rockies and 23% of the Reds. So
we are sickly in line today.
Chunk of my lineups.
Yeah, this is disturbing how in line we are.
And let's see, we just got the Giants lineup in. So one other thing that I want to talk about here. So for large field tournaments, I love the Rockies and Reds. I think we really, really want to be attacking that Coors Field game. Do you feel differently for single entry, though, Eric, where I do assume that all of the pertinent players from each of these teams are going to be like 30% owned at offense?
Yeah, they are. This Giants lineup could not have worked better for the lineup that I built. Wisely and Bailey are batting 1-2. That is some value that just showed up in your life for sure. Wisely, I had in the 9 hole and I was considering playing him there. I will definitely be playing him leading off. I already bet Bailey. He's batting second out of absolutely nowhere today, so that's cool. 3.2K catcher. So the two guys I was paying attention to are now batting 1-2. That is fascinating, but love San Francisco. I think that they're a nice ad. What was the original question though, so I can actually answer it?
So it's kind of funny because these conversations are going to merge together because I'm playing the Giants in single entry today.
Me too.
And the question I just asked you is, well, the Rockies and the Reds are the two teams I get the most exposure to in large field tournaments. I'm a little concerned of what their ownership could end up being in single entry. So in single entry, I'm stacking the Giants today. I do think the most likely outcome is that the Reds and or the Rockies are the highest scoring teams on the slate, but I'm getting to the Giants with what I'm presuming is going to be slightly lower ownership. Is that where you're at as well? Or do you just want to play Coors Field or maybe a different team in single entry?
God, I'm a little worried the ownership's going to come up on all of these dudes. I mean, we just got Wisely at 2,800 batting leadoff. Before you had the 2K guy that got called up, he's facing frickin' Gausman, that Norby character for Baltimore. So I don't think that's going to necessarily be somebody that I want to play in large field either. But for single entry today, I love the Giants. They were always going to be my stack going up against Arizona. Ryan Nelson is terrible. He is no good. He is very bad. And this is a great opportunity to get to a lot of the lefty-righty power, specifically Bailey sitting there as a catching option, batting second at 3.2K. I mean, that's like, you're looking for your 5 Cincinnati pieces. I probably am for sure playing Bailey now, 3.2K at catcher. That is a ridiculous value piece. I'm really happy that I bet him ahead of time too, to homer, 2+ bases. I suppose Arizona has Gabriel Moreno batting second as well. That might be a FanDuel conversation. So wild to have two of the best hitting catchers on this entire slate, sitting there at 3,200 in the same game there, San Francisco, Arizona. So that's a pretty wild one, but love San Francisco for single entry. I'm with you. That's my single entry team.
It's a really cheap offense. They are so in large field tournaments, I like them to an extent as well. But what's different about single entry is I do think this is just points per dollar. This is the best points per dollar offense on the entire slate. And because I think the field is going to so aggressively be going towards Coors Field, I do think you get lower ownership on the Giants in single entry in turn, because if we do think Coors Field is going to be more popular, well, that means every other team just has to be a little bit lower owned. Also, somebody in chat asked where Yastrzemski is hitting. He is in the lineup and batting 7th today. So in the lineup, but towards the top. The biggest change about the Giants lineup relative to our projected lineup, Thairo Estrada, not in the lineup. He's been dealing with a sore thumb. Hadn't played for the last few days. I did think he was going to be back in the lineup today, but he's not. And that's why we've got Wisely batting leadoff at $2,800. So, I mean, he almost immediately looks like one of the top overall plays on the slate, in my opinion here, Eric.
Yep, absolutely. 2,800, I'm going to play lots of him. I mean, it's a lefty leading off here in this spot. Some of those pinch hit concerns probably go away with Estrada as well. Like, I don't think Estrada will be out there pinch hitting for him. So, I mean, Wilmer Flores, like, I don't know. I don't see as much pinch hit concern as I'm going through it here too, knowing that Estrada's just on the bench. I don't think he'll pinch hit for him. I'm looking at Arizona's bullpen here. Yeah, I feel pretty good about Wisely just being in the whole game. This is $2,800 piece of value that wasn't there before.
Yeah, and I mean, the other piece of this too to consider is that the reason Thairo Estrada isn't starting is because he's got a jammed thumb. If he's not able to start, like, I don't think they're going to put him in. I could be wrong on this, but it doesn't make sense to me to be like, oh, this guy can't take 4 at bats, but he could take 1. Like, I just think he's not ready to play yet.
Yeah, because then, well, he takes the at bat. It'd have to be like you're down 2. They do have Schmidt. They do have the ability to like move him around. He's kind of a gadget guy. He can play third. He can play short. He can move around a little bit. Again, these are the kind of things that my brain thinks about trying to find small edges in DFS these days. The Sims tool does such amazing work that, you know, everybody kind of has a leg up who has access to that as it is right now. So trying to see if there's anything I can mine out from a pitch hit concern. I'm with you. I don't think Estrada will be more than likely pinch hitting for him. So that's a big plus.
And by the way, our projections did just update for the Giants starting lineup. For those who are concerned, Brett Wisely, we have projected for 7.33 fantasy points. They're batting leadoff for the Giants. And let's see, where do we have him before? Before he was projected for 6.24. So we got him projected for like 1.5 more fantasy points or so. Now that he's leading off, makes a difference for the slate. Not that value is the same in baseball, it isn't like basketball, but Wisely, somebody who's in some lineups for me, who's going to be in a good amount more now that he is confirmed that leadoff spot. If we look at the rest of the stack exposures from the lineup generator here, the Rockies, the Reds, 1 and 2, followed by the Giants we just talked about, and then the Nationals and the Diamondbacks. What is it? Who else? Tigers. That was the other team. 10% there. So those are the offense ownership. Pretty spread out, though. There are a lot of teams that look good outside of Coors Field, and Eric and I will break down some more of the ones that we like to get to in a little bit. But first, let's show some people some FanDuel lineups. We could do that for them as well, Jordan. And same deal. Let's build contrarian lineups on FanDuel. Don't lock anybody in or anything, and we'll see what pops up. And were there any questions in Discord? Yeah, we got first, Sean Jeezy says he's considering stacking Baltimore in single entry. Thoughts? It's a really good offense against a pitcher who, while I do think is going to be good the rest of the season, he definitely has had some ups and downs in the early going. I'm not doing it, but I don't have a strong opposition to stacking the Orioles against Gausman in single entry. How do you feel about that, Eric?
I think they're better for large field. I think for single entry, this is kind of a weird way to explain it, but like we see such pronounced chalk we're going to with Cincy in Colorado, and something I've routinely done that's been more successful. Again, Greg is the far superior single entry player to me. He had a lot of success last year on it. Tried to learn kind of just seeing what top players are doing, and it would appear that it's like the 3rd or 4th still projected team. And so for me, that ends up being San Francisco. I still think that they have a really high success rate. They only have a 4.6 team total too, which kind of steers away the attention. Arizona has a higher team total. Philadelphia has a higher team total. San Diego has a higher team total. And yet I like San Francisco from a run output because salary, it's still a thing in DFS. And so you can't just look at the team total and say 1 for 1. San Francisco is so cheap. I'm pretty sure I'm going to roll out my Wheeler lineup now as well for what it's worth. I'm rerunning stuff to see if I get a little bit more Wheeler. I bet I do in my next run, but I think San Francisco, they're cheap. They're in a great spot. And that's really all there needs to be said. I think they're a great single entry team today, whereas Baltimore, really expensive, hard to make work the same way, and a lower implied team total.
Then we got Einstein. I'm asking, do we think of St. Louis or Houston as good leverage spots to be getting to, Eric? St. Louis or Houston?
St. Louis is okay, I suppose. I mean, Houston is the much better spot in terms of like offense, but I don't know if we're going to get leverage with like Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez. We'll see. Maybe we do, but I see a lot of chatter in chat, and every single time we get to the flip, I see ownership on Kyle Tucker now that it's like he's my boy, and it just sucks that over the last couple of weeks he's just absolutely raked because there's just no way to get to him now. The way that you could before is like a sneaky single entry option. So for me, I'm with you. Like Kyle Tucker is really, really good. And if you wanted to target Houston, I don't mind that whatsoever against Gibson. But I think it's probably for leverage purposes better to get to St. Louis.
I don't view Houston as a leverage spot. Like there's no ownership going to Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So leverage wise, it's just got to be St. Louis.
I mean, like Houston, I'm fine with rostering Houston. So like I'm kind of nitpicking here. I think Houston is fine to get to as a stack. It's just not a leverage stack. There's no ownership on Kyle Gibson. And then as far as St. Louis is concerned, the issue I have with St. Louis going up against Justin Verlander is I just don't think it's the best spot for St. Louis's offense. So I'm not like loading up on Verlander or anything tonight in my lineups, but I'm not looking to stack against him in any kind of meaningful way either.
With you, 100%.
All right, let's see what else we have for questions. We've answered all of those for now, but same deal over on FanDuel. A ton of the Rockies, like all of our most rostered hitters are from there. And then pitchers. We're getting to Zach Wheeler, Kevin Gausman. We're well overweight to the field on Gausman, which I love over on FanDuel. Anything else that's standing out to you about these lineups here, Eric, or these player exposures?
Looks pretty darn good to me. Ezekiel Tavar, my first bet. He was my best bet of the day, plus 450 to go yard on Mr. Andrew Abbott, because on the surface, Andrew Abbott looks calm and ready to prevent bombs, but he keeps on forgetting how to get guys out from the right side of the fucking plate. 237 ISO, 172 expected ISO, absolute dunce cap with a 19.7 degree launch angle. He's been a good pitcher this season when he's limited hard contact there, and that's no small feat in Great American Small Park. But here in Colorado, 84 degrees at first pitch, giving up high fly ball contact to righties with only a 16.7% K rate. Tavar was my first bet of the day.
Okay. So let's see. Click on the stack exposures, Jordan. I want to see one more time here what our most rostered stacks were. But now for FanDuel, yeah, Colorado, Houston showing up a whole bunch here, which, like I said, Houston, it's not a bad stack to get to, but it's not leverage when Kyle Gibson isn't picking up ownership going against them. Have I forgotten what it's Kyle Gibson on the other side, right?
Sure is.
Yeah. Then Phillies offense, Reds offense, Diamondbacks. So once again, like pretty spread out. Is that the way that your lineups are looking for large field tournaments where it's a lot of exposure to Coors Field and then it's kind of spread out past them? Or is there another team for large field tournaments that you do find yourself getting a good amount of exposure to?
So San Francisco, talked about them. San Diego, I was getting to a little bit earlier. Now I'm kind of toying between two different lineups because there's a Skubal Wheeler with this Giants lineup that is one of my top projected that I might want to roll out. I might want to do it, but I like Washington against Tyler McGill. McGill was actually pulling a little bit of ownership here. He had massive struggles last season. This year, so far, so good. 31.3% K rate looks ridiculous. 349 expected slugging, really, really useful. 196 expected batting average. It's just such a small sample size on him. 262 pitches, very, very few opportunities here. What, 3 starts that we've seen, 2 recently? Yeah, the strikeout stuff has been nifty, but going back to last year, there were some serious signs there. So 2 starts does not a pitcher make. 5.85 expected ERA last season. Talked about McGill for a second where he's like somebody I had close to the field on. But I do like getting to a contrarian Washington team.
All right, let's go back one more time, Jordan. Just scroll through the player exposures to the, just scroll down so people who are watching could see some of the individual bats that it is that we're getting to in these lineups. And then I want to ask you, Eric, as we are building out lineups that are geared towards Coors Field, a lot like we're getting a lot of Rockies, we're getting a lot of Reds. Who are the players that you have the most overall exposure to from the Coors Field game?
The players?
Yes.
Okay, let me just click on this here quick. Ezekiel Tavar, the guy that I'm getting to the most. Ellie Taylor Cruz, again, I think no matter what you want to say about his struggles, he is just absolutely fantastic. Heimer Candelario, I've got in 30% of my lineups, so that is a massive stand that I've got coming in on him at the moment. Got Spencer Steer. Looking at Colorado here, going further down the board, got Brendan Rodgers, got all of these outfielders, Doyle, Goodman, and Bouchard. Like, these dudes are just 20% plus on my lineups everywhere. So I find Coors Field to be a pretty easy spot to be targeting today.
All right, so let's go. You could close this out now, Jordan. And if you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys do have any additional questions for us, we've got, 15 minutes to go until lock here. Hit me up in the Discord channel so we could answer those questions. Are there any real contrarian teams you're taking a big stand on in large field tournaments? I know you mentioned you like the Washington Nationals a little bit, but outside of them, is there any spot you're really liking? Because once again, Coors Field is dominating our lineups, but what are we doing outside of it?
I don't love a lot of these other spots. I'm relatively neutral. I have a little bit of Texas Rangers exposure just going up against Scooball. He's the massive Cy Young favorite here for a reason, but it is a difficult spot, no doubt, going up against Simeon, Seager, Grossman, who always gets the 3-hole against these lefties. It's just the weirdest thing because he's not good anymore. He wasn't even good with my Twins once upon a time, but Adolis Garcia, Jonah Heim, Wyatt Langford one day will be good. One day he will be good. I promise you that. But I am looking at my lineups here. There's nothing that's like crazy pronounced in this last run that I'm getting to. I get Milwaukee's been really, really good against Zach Wheeler, or against right-handed pitching it is, but it is Zach Wheeler on the mound, so not looking to get tons of leverage there. It's an 8-game slate. I'm pretty happy to be jamming Coors, finding a couple of spots, a little bit of Padres exposure to the main guys in like 2 and 3 mans. Getting to some exposure, big time of San Francisco and Washington, getting through the cracks a little bit. Not a ton else that's really noticeable here. I guess 4% of Baltimore as well, going up against Gaussman purely for leverage purposes, but not a ton else is going on.
Yeah, let me look. Ownership update. Have you seen where Wisely ended up coming in?
No, that's all I keep trying to get is seeing the ownership, because we had the projections updated a while ago here, and I'm just trying to get this. There it is. Let's get back to the data hub, and let's go to second base here.
Yeah, I'm rerunning my lineups right now for the updated Giants lineup. It's not that often that I'm like, oh, I have to review everything because the batting order is different than expected. But this was one where somebody batting first instead of, I'm pretty sure we had him projected 9th before, is something that has a big difference. What is the ownership on Wisely now?
9.3%. I will have more than 9.3%. I'm also getting to 42% Zach Wheeler now, which I'm now over the field on. I did prefer him to Scooball. Didn't do anything other than change that projection to 1.5. And you know what happened is I got 20%, and life is good. Life is good.
I mean, it makes sense because we have a player who is available for a really cheap price point. Probably makes it easier to spend up at pitching.
Yep, that's exactly it. 2,800, and then Bailey 3,200 on a stack that I already liked. Goes from being somebody that I had 7-hole earlier in the day, then saw a lot of people had him moved up to 5. I moved him up to 5, got a little bit more, and now that he's batting second, hello, hi, good to see you.
All right, here comes a final Sims run for me. I'm not gonna have, because I mean there's only 10 minutes to go, so I'm not gonna have time to run another one after this. So whatever I get here, that is what I'm going to be playing. And I'll be interested to see what that did do to change some of my lineups and some of my ownership as well. I do think it means I'm probably going to be getting to the Giants as my 3rd most rostered stack. My assumption is going to be, which I'll know for sure in like 5 seconds here, but I think it's going to be Rockies as my most rostered stack, Reds 2, Giants are probably going to be 3rd.
Yep, I'm with you. What is this? Mark Adams. This has got to be a record for the least amount of shit Greg has given Eric during one of his broadcasts. Well, we've had an actual piece of news that dropped in the middle of this that mattered. That lineup order definitely moved things around a little bit for me. Got me more Wheeler, got me San Francisco, 2 pieces that I already liked when they were going to be batting 7th and 9th. Now they're batting 1-2. That's going to change quite a bit for me. And if other people aren't going to change it, I'm even happier to do it. So there's that. I have a little bit less Matt Waldron. That's the other thing to notice, 24%.
it's not like there's a quota of me having to call Eric, of me having to make fun of Eric or call him an idiot. It's not like, also, we were on meetings before. So it's, I've talked to him
He's
throughout
had
the day more
exposure to
than
me
usual.
already today for too
It's not
much.
like I sit here, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't called Eric an idiot 3 times today. Here come the police to arrest me. We took care of it already at other points in the day here. Are there any offenses that you are looking at on the slate that you're viewing as overowned that you're not getting to as much as the field is?
Let me pull up my stack exposures here. I'm just saving this because I did the same thing you did where I gave it one more spin of the old wheel. Let's pull up my stacks here, exposures, and here we are. Stack exposures. I have, in this last run, 5 stack exposures. I have like no Mets, 0.7% Mets in 150. So that equals one lineup of Milwaukee. I have 2.7% Los Angeles, 3% Philly. I'm guessing that that's underweight, even though I do like Schwarber, Harper, like, you normally would. They're like inside of plus 280 to hit a homer today. Like they generally been against righties. San Diego, 7.3%, San Francisco, 16.7%. So anything that I'm taking drastically under, looks like Arizona I'm under too, 4%. I think they were a little bit more than that. A lot of that Arizona just became San Francisco there. They're 9.4% ownership share. So I think the Diamondbacks, the team I'm cheering against the most today.
All right. So let's do this. And once again, you guys have any final questions, throw them into the Discord chat. But Eric, are any other offense you want to talk about? If not, should we fire up our home run picks for the day?
Ooh, any other offenses? No. So San Francisco, let's say you're playing 3 max and you want to spread it out. San Francisco, are you avoiding Colorado, Cincinnati in like your top 3, or is there another team that might sneak into it?
Let's see. I would avoid Coors Field for like really small field stuff.
Same.
So what would I do then? I would go probably Washington, San Diego, San Francisco, something like that.
Yeah, Washington is really interesting to me, especially because Sean V said that Tyler McGill's made changes. That's great to know. I'm glad that you know that after 2 starts back.
What were those? What are those changes?
I would love to see. Oh, he had 2 games where he struck out a lot of people, Greg.
So it's funny. I thought I was going to be getting to just like a ton of I had more Giants on my last run than I do now. I still like them for single entry, but I did end up coming down a little bit on them in large field tournaments. But if I'm building 3 lineups for 3 max, it would probably be a Giant stack, a National stack, a Padres stack.
That sounds about exactly what I would do too.
Yeah, that's the way I would be looking. Let me think. Other teams. Yeah, the team that's the lowest owned I'm most overweight to is the Washington Nationals, which I think that's what you had said as well.
Yep. The team that I'm the most overweight to?
No, just the low owned team that we were getting exposure.
Oh, low owned team to get to. Yeah, Washington for sure.
Yeah. Washington's another one that I would be playing in 3 max. Yeah, those 3 lower owned teams.
Yep. Love.
All right, Eric, hit me with it. Dong of the day. Who's going yard?
Hard. I know that you say you can't take a guy in Coors. You can't do it, Eric. You can't do it.
Not allowed to. It's cheating.
Oh, it is? You're actually going to do that to me? I can't,
you can't
take a plus 450 guy?
What do you, this is how Spags used to play this game, where it would be like we would do the 100 yards in a touchdown game on football, and he would just be like, how about Le'Veon Bell today, who would have a rushing prop of like 110 yards, and he would be the chalk of all chalk. Same thing. You can't go Coors Field. You can't go.
That's not fair. He's a baseball player. Would you prefer the word buzz? I'll go Patrick Bailey then. Batting second now for the San Francisco Giants. The roof is going to be closed. That's unfortunate because I saw it was going to be 95. And I always do my due diligence to go look at the roofs there because Arizona confirmed really awful this time of year. Going to be hot as hell. Probably going to be roof closed nonstop. But there will be one day randomly out of nowhere that they open the roof and people don't notice it right away. Because they can do that late. So just be aware of that. That's something that happens just with my parents out in Arizona. They talk about it all the time where oh, why did we go to the game? It's so hot. And they opened the roof. It was 85 degrees. Yeah, so pay attention to that, but not today. Patrick Bailey, 3.2K catcher, going yeah, plus 630 over on FanDuel.
I like how your parents kind of sound a little bit like Bane.
Oh,
yeah, that was the same impression you did of your parents.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll tell you, there are moments that I think my dad turns into Bane. It was an interesting upbringing, that's for sure. Oh, Eric, take out the cash.
This will be the Lindquist reckoning. It's always the dad's over exaggerating. It's like, Dad, I just left the lights on. We're not going to go broke because of this, but always push back on that.
They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. No, literally my brother. One of the three of us.
I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis as my home run pick. Yeah, Fernando Tatis. I like the matchup that he has in Los Angeles. Also, this is the only lineup that hasn't come out yet is the San Diego Padres. That could lower their ownership a little bit. Every other team has their lineup out at lock. I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres come in just a little bit lesser owned than what their projected is because of the fact that we don't have that lineup in and people maybe not wanting to hand build that lineup as a breaking point between choosing two teams. But other than that is just about going to do it for us. Any final thoughts before we sign off, Eric?
I will say Jake Cronenworth, he's starting to not fall out of favor, but he's gotten buried to the 6 hole. That's something to pay attention to, especially facing a lefty today. There's a chance that they end up going to like Solano, who has played some first base before. So be on the lookout for that. I think that, otherwise Camposado should be catching. Azakar should be in the outfield. Those are the kind of small things that if you have an idea of what you're going to do after lock, always helpful to have that in mind. But yeah, it's the only lineup we're waiting on. That does make me interested to roll with this Tatis Machado lineup here before lock and have that be my combination with San Fran. So I think I'm going to roll that out in single entry. Good luck, everybody.
All right, some of the home run picks from chat before we sign off here. It is, we've got, where was it? Oh, here we go. Okay, we got Michael Roundtree and Donovan Solano. Sotex just asked deodorant. Yeah, we're deodorant. That wasn't really a home run pick. That was more of a lifestyle question.
That's Joe.
Rance went with Jorge Soler. Doug Dubs says Eric doesn't follow the rules. Absolutely not. This must be his first time being around here.
Fuck you. I don't care.
Done as many baseball shows this year.
Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah, Eric's like, can I build a lineup with $60,000 in salary? No, you can't. We don't bend the rules for you just because you think you're special.
Why not? I'm doing it because I miss Jordan Klein so
Alvarez,
much.
Doug Dobbs. He went with Nolan Gorman. We've got Alex Kaiser going with Trenton Brooks, picking him to homer from the 9-hole. CJ the Great is going with David Dahl, your arch nemesis, Eric. You brought up being unhappy with him earlier today.
Oh my God, I just tweeted out. I was just like, why is this idiot back?
Jordan Klein going off the board with Ha-Sung Kim. All right, staying on brand. I like it. We've got Casey Leatherwood going with Riley Green and Manny Machado. Sotex has got Jock Peterson. We've got Malukar's going with Alex Bregman. Free Scotty, you cheated the game also. You can go with Ezekiel Tovar. Aiden Queskin's got Gunnar Henderson. Brandon's also going with Patrick Bailey, so tailing you with Patrick Bailey there, Eric. We've got Reg Kelly has got Ryan Mountcastle. Charles Moran has got Casey Schmidt. And then we've got EMAC. Our own EMAC is going with Kyle Schwarber. Guys, thank you very much for watching. A couple of them from the playback chat as well. M. Dinky went with Kyle Tucker, and Peter Wasaki went with Dan Vogelback. Although, Peter, what happened? You wrote Vogelback in lowercase letters. I didn't know you knew how to do that. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You want to sign up for any of the stochastic packages, all the links are below in the description box. Play with the stochastic avatar. We got the new avatar package. You got some new cool prizes up there. So guys, have a great night. Good luck. See you back here tomorrow. Peace out.